Oh, hey, Alice. Welcome back to the Mad Tea Party. Good to see you again. Per the usual, we have the Neef, the March
Hey,
Hare,
Alice.
and we got Kip from Kip Gloss joining us as well. Thanks for coming, man.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, man, it's my pleasure. We met at Muddy Roots through our mutual friend Dez, and I thought you would be a good guest. You seem like you got good vibes, man, and clearly good taste in music.
You're right, right. No, I appreciate it. I'm definitely um, all about people, getting to do their thing and being supportive, and everybody getting to be who they were, made to be.
Yeah, man, it's all about that positive energy. It can get kind of like clicky in the Nashville Murfreesboro scene, but people like us can keep it
Yeah,
alive just through good vibes. Um,
yeah. It's going to be like that anywhere to some extent. I
sure.
think. Yeah,
I was talking to Triangle Fire at Muddy Roots, and they were kind of telling me a little bit about the Georgia scene, and
yeah,
they were like, well, we're actually thinking about looking at Nashville or Murfreesboro as an option. And I was like, well, we got to share problems here too. But it's like you said, you're gonna have good and bad wherever you go.
yeah. And I love Nick and Tandy and Triangle Fire and Joseph, their drummer. Yeah, I've gotten to know them over the last year and a half because they've been to Murfreesboro a bunch, and so we share a lot of the same philosophies about trying to keep the scene safe, and making sure that if there are people that are causing some issues or that have been accused of stuff, that we not only try to keep them from harming anyone in the scene or the scene, but also try to figure out ways to help that
Mm.
person,
Yeah,
and not just cast them out and just you know don't try to figure out what's going on, and give them a chance to come clean too, and like say I screwed up or whatever. Um, so that's not always going to be possible, but I think we that's something we should look at to try to help people.
I absolutely agree with that. It's really nice to hear
Yeah, because it's
that.
easy just to say, screw you, you've been accused of this or you did this, and especially when they're young kids, you got people out there 14, 15 years old that don't know shit about life yet, and and you're branding them, for some dumb stuff they did, and instead of trying to teach them a
Right.
better way, and like when why what they did was wrong, and that they don't have to conduct themselves like that. So um, again, I know that some people aren't going to respond and they're just going to be shitty. And if that's the case, and they don't have a place, in the scene, um, but I think it's something we need to at least try to help people when we can.
I completely agree, man. I think that's a good outlook on it. Something I've kind of noticed along similar lines is like we have a band of misfits. We're all rejects, the nerds, the geeks, the queers, right? And
That's right.
it's like once some of them, not all of them, definitely, but some of these people, once they start getting some affluence, once their band starts taking off, all of a sudden turn into a cheerleader or a jock, and they start doing the same thing that happened to them in high school. Kind of
Yeah,
like kind of like cops, where it's like they got bullied in
yeah,
school, so now they want to take it out on people and abuse their power.
definitely. No, I think that happens a lot, unfortunately. But like you pointed out, it's kind of easy to see how it can happen because just what happened to you, you either run to it or run from it, and that's going to dictate kind of what happens down the road. When you do get some kind of success or whatever, is what you're going to hold on to. So that's a good point.
Yeah, no doubt. Like a negative example can be just as strong as like a powerful example. Like if you're abused, you can say, I'm gonna make sure I never become that person, or like when I see that happen, I'm going to like do something about it. And then like some people fall in that trap of doing the same thing that happened to
Yeah,
them.
Yeah, and they would never set out to do that. And it's like they probably don't even understand why it ended up that way.
Yeah.
And that's sad, but it does repeat itself like that a lot, and especially with abuse.
I really,
It's
yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
no, I'm done.
I really like your message of rehabilitation and like forgiveness because like you said, like we've all done dumb shit that we're not proud of. Everyone is guilty of that. And
Yep.
that doesn't mean like they have to go like die in a ditch somewhere, right? It's like,
Right.
yeah,
Right. Yeah, I can definitely think back to multiple times where I've done dumb stuff, and if somebody had, if I was living in the age, back then that we are now, where everything's on social media and all that, I don't know
Oh
that
my
I would have
Lord.
been given another chance. It might have just been, I'd have got canceled, and that would have been it. And then I would have had to try to find some other way to navigate through life from that point. So I'm glad that didn't happen to me. I'm glad I had people around that, you know, held me accountable and tried to help me instead of, just telling me it's a piece of shit and I was never going to amount to anything. Um,
Well,
and I've
mistake.
had stuff done to me too. It's like, it's definitely not a one-way street. I mean, we've all either been on one side or the other. To some degree,
But
some things are severe and extreme, and I get that, and that's a
yeah.
that's a whole different
There are
kind
definitely
of deal.
lines. Yeah.
it's also it's the mistakes that really make us wise. You know, it's and
Right.
I've had people, I have people from both sides of the mind frame towards me. I've experienced people who thought I didn't know what I was talking about to people that think I'm extremely wise and intelligent, and none of that came from doing the correct thing through my younger life. My youth is, if I hadn't have seen the side of things that I walked myself into, I would not be as aware of their effect now,
Yeah.
and I think that's what can help prevent, not that people should jump into these things, but that kind of helps when you get, especially when you get older and you actually end up you're in a more powerful position when you're older because you're, by society in general, you're more respected and your word holds a little more weight. So you tend to be a little more compassionate about that rather than when the youth gets a little bit of power. It's very easy for them to just flip it over and be like, well, I'm popular, and so whatever I'm thinking is the only correct way to think.
Exactly.
And so
Young and dumb, and
yep.
yeah, full of vigor. Yeah, you see that all the time with pro athletes and celebrities, people like that. They get success and money and fame when they're too young to really understand what it really means, and then it leads them down some crazy paths. Um, yeah, it's tough when you don't have that experience and those failures to learn from. Like you were saying, I mean, wisdom. There's always a price to pay for wisdom.
For sure. And like the people I know that have like long-term success, like the most successful people are very humble. Like they're not like flexing their power all the time. They're very just grateful to be in the position they're in. Um
Exactly.
yeah. Those yeah. Um not bitter. Yeah. Uh so you've got a show coming up the third day of Borofondo, October 1st with some other great
Yeah,
bands.
we're playing the Hangover Fest, which it's been dubbed, um, which is probably appropriate. Friday night they have kind of our Friday toward the late afternoon, evening. They have what they call the pre-party, and then Saturday it goes all day long. And people are either biking to the different venues, which is we hope people get to get involved with that part of it. But going from venue to venue in whatever way that they're traveling. And it's a long day. And then so Sunday, starting I think 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, they have the Hangover Fest at Crossroads. Uh, the South's favorite punk house, and at least mine.
Legendary place. Seen a lot of great shows there.
It's definitely my home away from home, has been for the last several years for sure. So I'm kind of glad that they scheduled me to play there, or they scheduled our group to play there. And that's going to be fun to hang out and see some great bands and be a part of that, and just get to see everybody and kind of reflect on what the last couple of days have been like for everybody, and just kind of chill too.
Oh yeah, man. Well, Alice at home, definitely check out all of Hangover Fest. But what time are you going on? If you
I believe
roughly.
it's around 5 ish, 5:30.
Okay,
Yep.
right on, man.
Yep.
Yeah, Kip's got a band camp as well. I'll put a link in the bio if you want to check that out. You
Tell us
guys,
about how your band popped up.
Kind of like how we came together.
Yeah, how'd y'all get together? You said it was kind of a
Yeah, it was. I'd been doing a lot of acoustic stuff, just playing out on my own, either under the name Skip or just out as Kip, and just being out, going to different shows and all. I'd run into different musicians, obviously, and got to know, know some guys in the band Death Holler, and they talked to me about maybe forming a band that they'd like to be my, the rhythm section if I wanted to do something. And I had, I wanted to be in a band, but I'd never really thought about playing the electric guitar and being in a band. I was more like, because I've been a bass player historically. I've just kind of picked up the guitar because I didn't have anybody else to play with, and I just started writing a bunch of songs. But anyway, they kind of liked what I was doing acoustically, and they liked me as a person for some reason. And so they asked me to if I wanted to put something together, and so that's what we did. And I'm grateful to those guys. So Chad and Justin. Chad's playing the bass and Justin's playing the drums. And Chad plays the guitar in Karate Chad, which is one of his projects, and also in Death Holler. So both of those bands are also playing Burro Fondo, so I can put in a plug for them too.
yeah, they're gonna be busy. That's awesome.
Yeah, yeah, especially Chad. But it's good. It's a good busy, as they say.
Yeah, that's cool, man. How long have y'all been like practicing and playing together?
Um, we, my friend Dylan, who's in Congested, he had a birthday show out at Crossroads, and it was like early July, like last of June, early July, and he wanted me to open the show, just with my acoustic stuff. And before that show happened, Chad and Justin had talked to me about maybe putting a band together. So I asked Dylan, if I put a band together, is it okay if I play, if the band plays instead of me with my acoustic guitar? Because I know, I just didn't want to assume it would be cool to do that, since you were expecting me to come out there and just start the show off kind of on a lower key. And he said, yeah, man, I'd love for you to do that. So, so we rehearsed, a few times, and we did the show, and we also put this demo together kind of during that rehearsal, so we could, because the applications for Burro Fondo were coming up too, and you have to have some type of music for them to listen to consider you. So it all came together really fast, because of just the time frames involved. And so yeah, that's kind of how Kip Gloss was born. I was going to do the birthday show out at Crossroads with my friend Dylan, and ended up being the introduction of Kip Gloss to the world.
Hell yeah, man.
And yeah, and we, I was nervous as hell, of course, first time ever playing electric guitar in front of people, and But it went good. We got a lot of good response, and so made me feel like, yeah, this is doable. We can keep plugging along, see what happens, and it's been fun.
Nice. Where are you from originally?
Kind of South Carolina and Alabama were the two states I lived in the most growing up. I was born in South Carolina, and then my dad was a preacher, so I grew
Okay.
up a preacher's kid.
Gotcha.
And so, yeah, that might be another podcast.
Oh
We
man,
can do
we can
sometime.
definitely talk about that. Now that you
I
told me
could,
that, I got some questions, but go ahead.
yeah, I've got answers. I've got stories, believe me. But anyway, so we were every few years we'd move around. I used to joke my dad would run out of sermons after 3 years, so he'd have to go somewhere else where he could start all over.
Hmm.
So I heard all the sermons, multiple times, and they didn't change over the years. But yeah, that's so South Carolina and Alabama. We kind of my parents were from South Carolina, so we'd go back to a town in South Carolina, usually a smaller town, and then we had some connections in Alabama. So we actually lived in a place called Elba, Alabama twice, which is the only place I lived twice, and ended up graduating high school there. So kind of consider that, I guess, my hometown is Elba, Alabama. So little town in South Alabama, probably about 3,000 people.
Okay, I can relate to some of that. I was raised as a Jehovah's Witness, and I was also homeschooled, so I grew up with Christianity like really strong in the house. And I grew up in Fayetteville, Tennessee, which is right above Huntsville, Alabama.
Yeah,
Also a small town, like 2 or 3 thousand
yeah,
people. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Yeah. We have a lot of things that in common with all that, and
Yeah. Um, so what denomination church was your dad preaching in, or is it like a non-denominational?
well, it's funny because it's the Church of Christ,
Okay.
um, which they don't consider themselves a denomination if you think about them, because they are the church. Uh,
Right. Okay. They're all the church.
yeah,
Yeah.
right, right.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's that's the sect that I was with, was the Church of Christ.
I
Um,
got you.
which
It
was cool. It was cool in a lot of ways. Because I don't know how much you know about the Church of Christ, but they don't use
Not a
any
lot.
instruments. So all the singing is a cappella,
Oh, okay.
and there were five of us kids, and we all could sing. And so I really learned how to sing in
Hmm.
church and harmonize, and all growing up. Even though I didn't know how to play any instruments, I could sing, and that's still the probably the strongest thing that I do is just being able to sing and hear melody and hear the harmony and all that. And so I'm very grateful for that part of my upbringing for sure. Because I love to sing, I love to harmonize, and I just think that's when it's done right, it's just a beautiful thing.
Hmm. There's some good shit in gospel music too. Like some of that's really beautiful stuff.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, it's uh, the human voice is such a unique instrument, because no two are exactly alike. Um, so, and especially with families singing together, it's hard to find anything more beautiful than families that can harmonize and all together. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just because came from the same lineage or whatever, got the same blood. But there's just something about a family singing that, for me anyway, it just really strikes a good chord.
Yeah. I remember like getting like a rush and like a warm feeling from like everyone in the church kind of like harmonizing together. That's a
Right.
great feeling.
Yeah, that was definitely my favorite part of the church is
Yeah.
the singing part, the music part, which music has always been just a big part of my life, even, whether it was the singing or, later when I just wanted to always be in a band or always wanted to hear people in bands, just was drawn to it. So it's always been a really central part of my life and kind of at the core of who I am.
What's like the weirdest or like most shocking thing if people don't know that like Church of Christ and like what they believe? Like I guess that's different from like other types of Christianity.
Probably that you have to be baptized, like physically baptized in water to be saved.
Okay. Is it like a once save, always save kind of thing? Like if you're baptized, you're good?
Um, sort of, not so much like the Baptists and all believe.
Okay.
I do think the Church of Christ do believe that you can kind of reject your salvation or walk away, turn your back on Jesus or whatever, and that if you continue down that path and you don't repent, that you could lose your salvation in essence. Yeah.
Yeah. What was there like a defining moment that you kind of decided that that wasn't the path you wanted to continue going, or was it just kind of like gradual?
I wouldn't say it was any one thing. Um, but one thing that really got to me was, my parents were supposed to be these pious people, and they were. Um, but they would, I just remember coming back home from church and riding in the car, and they would be talking about people in the congregation, and I would call them out on it. And I was young. I was like 8 or 9 years old, and I was like, "What? Why are you talking about people? You're not
Mm.
supposed to do that. Go
Yeah.
talk to them. Don't be
Yeah.
talking about them. Go talk to them." And then they would, just kind of, blow me off or whatever, and wouldn't really address it. And so really it was kind of the hypocrisy that I saw in my own parents and family. And then obviously I could see it once I got a little bit older, and I'd see the people that go to church that I'd go to church with, and then they'd be out partying and, doing all the things that, they not supposed to be doing. But they'd go to church on Sunday and act like they were, holier than everybody else. So I picked up on all that pretty early, and and I bode my time
Yeah.
until I could kind of get out of the house, and then I did my own thing after that.
I
I
got
just
you.
never went back. My parents always wanted me to come back home, and I knew I couldn't, because I couldn't go to church and pretend like I was something I wasn't.
Right. Yeah, I feel you. Uh, you hear that, Nashville? You hear that, Murfreesboro? If you got a problem with someone, talk to them. Don't talk about them.
That's right. Right. And that is, it's so important, really. If you really have any integrity or care about anybody at all, I've got 3 kids, and I preach this to them their whole life. It's like, if you're going to talk about somebody, I can guarantee you they're going to be, whoever you're talking to about them, they're going to be talking about you
Mm.
with somebody else. So
Yep.
don't do it.
Yep.
Don't do it,
It's,
even if it costs you a friendship. I put that in quotes, because are they really your friend if they're
mm,
wanting to talk about other people? It's like, you got to hold yourself to a higher standard, and just realize that, if you have an issue with somebody, you've got to address it with them, unless you don't care. And then if you don't care, then don't talk about them. Just go, stay out of their life, but don't talk about them. It's
yeah.
just not the way to do it. And thankfully, I think they all really picked up on that, and it's probably one of the prouder things I am of them, is that they're just so mindful of that, and they're just so respectful of other people, and try to treat people like they want to be treated. And I think that's the message I've tried to talk to them about their whole lives, is keep your heart clean, and treat people like you want to be treated. And if you have a problem with somebody, go talk to them. Don't talk
How
about them.
how old are your kids? You said you got three?
Yeah, I've got two sons, 27 and 23, and then my daughter is 16.
Okay, so I'm 27 too. So
Cool.
is your son here in town?
He is in lives in Iowa.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he's kind of his own man, and he just decided there were better opportunities and cheaper housing, and he's absolutely right. I think he's got an apartment up there for like $600 a month or something. He's just like stashing all his cash away, and then buying all these stocks up and all, just being way more financially responsible than I've ever been in my life.
Well, good on him, man. I wish I could have
So I'm
$600
hoping he'll
housing.
be able to take care of his mom and I one day.
Yeah. Yeah, man. That's sometimes it's better to like go where you can exist because like shit's definitely tough here.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's so courageous to do that too. He
Mhm.
didn't know a soul up there. He just saw that there were job opportunities, and he moved up there without even having a job. He had enough money saved up to where he knew he could survive for a period of time, and apparently he loves it. We can't get him to come home, and we are like kind of hoping in a little bit of a way that he would fail, so we'd get him back home, but not really. I mean, I definitely want him. I want all my kids to be independent thinkers, be able to get out on their own and make their own way in life, and not have to depend on their parents. We're always going to be there for them, but we definitely want them to be able to, to navigate their own life, their own way, and whatever success means to them, that they find that.
Yeah, that's definitely good, man. Because like whenever parents get like clingy and like try to live vicariously, that definitely like makes life a lot more difficult.
Yeah, it's tougher with my daughter. I have to say, because I'm just so concerned about her as a female.
Mm.
Because I know how young men, young boys especially, can be, and she's experiencing a lot of that now, where they're saying one thing to her, and then they'll go out and say that to another girl and all that, and she's got a very sensitive heart, and so I just see how it just hurts her when she sees people aren't being real and being immature and all that, because she's so much more mature than the people her age, seemingly, at least to me. And so, but she has to deal with kind of being around all that, and she just doesn't understand why people are that way. And I get it. I'm like, yeah, they shouldn't be, but
I definitely don't envy kids coming up now. Like it's such a weird fucking time to be alive.
yeah,
It's
no, I
hard.
think it's so much tougher than me, for sure. Um, but yeah, even people your age, early 30s, um, it's definitely wasn't the same as it is now for people
Mm.
in their 15, 16,
Yeah.
17 years old. It's tough. We had to take our daughter out of high school because um, she was just getting bullied constantly. She's real thin, and so she would get made fun of for being so thin. And we're telling her, look, there's like people dying out there to have your body,
Oof.
literally dying, killing themselves to try to be thin. One day you're going to be glad, but she doesn't feel that way, so she's very insecure
Yeah.
about that. And so she was just constantly getting told she was a beanpole and a stick and all this stuff, and the school wouldn't really address it. I don't know if they really could. It's tough because kids are going to kind of be kids too. But
Kids are
she just,
so mean. Kids are so
yeah, I mean,
awful to each other.
it was relentless, and it was like, it's not worth it. You're really not getting much of an education there to begin with.
I know that's
I
right.
mean, honestly,
It's
uh,
bullshit. It's
yeah, it
bullshit.
is. It really is. Public school, especially, and
It's such a joke.
that was my experience too. I mean, my parents didn't have any money to send us to a private school, and there really wasn't homeschooling back then either. Um, so we were, and she was still kind of wanting to go back to, for the social aspects of it. And then and so she was kind of prepared to go back this year, and she's a sophomore. And then she just decided on her own, it's not worth the little bit of social, benefit I would get out of it or whatever. I'm not going to go back. And we were like, yes, thank you. But we let it be her call, because we knew if we kind of forced it, then she could resent us, and it might not work out the way that we thought it would or whatever. So we definitely wanted to be her call, but she feels good about it. I know she knows she made the right call, and we're definitely good with it too. And so now she does school at her own. She'll finish school. She'll graduate, in a few months. So she'll basically do 2 years of school in the next 4 or 5 months and be done with it.
Hell yeah. Gets a lot more time to like do things you want to do.
She's already had 2 jobs, and she likes making money. And she likes spending money. So we're glad she likes making it, because she was about to break us. So she's a real good kid. I'm so proud of her for being as responsible as she is, and for having a good heart, even though it can get hurt, kind of easily.
To kind of go back to religion for a minute, and I promise I won't harp on it too long. It's just
Oh yeah, you good. I can talk about it as long as you
want. So like for me personally, like I moved out when I was 18, and I was just really pissed off at religion. Like I was like very much like an atheist when I was 18, and like at this point in my life, like it took me a while to get here, but like I have a really like strong respect for scripture. Like I'm still mad at the organized religion part.
Exactly.
Yeah, like those books are so full of knowledge. I don't agree with everything in there, but like there's so much wisdom. It's just that a lot of the people talking about it don't know what the fuck they're talking about a lot of the time. So that being said, like and when I ask this, no one knows the answer. It's part of why I'm so curious about it. But like at this point in your life, what do you think happens after we die?
I'd like to think that we go into a different kind of sphere of consciousness, and that we become either we, some people would call it reincarnation. I certainly don't rule that out. I think there's something to be said for the experiences that you have in the life that we're living now, that we don't know if this is the only life we're going to have or not, but it's the only one we know for sure that we have, that we don't lose that, and we get an opportunity to come back, and somehow that like sticks with us, even if we don't know that it's there inside of us from where we were before. And then we get an opportunity to evolve into a higher level of understanding and consciousness in the next life that we live. And it may not even be on this planet. I mean, if you look at how big the universe is, who knows if we don't get put in another planet somewhere in a whole different type of world. I know I've had these conversations with people where I'm thinking, this whole garden, this Adam and Eve thing and all, if that were true, and and I don't know if it is or not, nobody knows for sure.
Nobody does. Yeah.
But what if there is a God, or there's these higher beings, these higher evolved beings or whatever, and they're able to do that? What if they're doing like an Adam and Eve on like thousands of planets across the universe, and it's all like some big experiment to see what that civilization does, what that core, civilization started out at, and what they become? Did they blow up the fucking world? They set it on fire, or did they like learn to appreciate nature, and like it becomes this like totally beautiful place, and everybody's like in one with what's going on in that world, and you have sort of a utopian type thing. but if I was a god like that, that's probably what I would do. I would like, if you've got unlimited time and you've got that kind of power,
It's like you got a bunch of mason jars with worlds in it. And you're like, hey, what are you
yes,
going to do tomorrow? I got this
yeah,
new idea to start this other one.
yeah, exactly. And also kind of see like what happens, like we know we've had the ice age, whatever, we had dinosaurs. Maybe it's just the same way on one earth. It's like you start with this one Adam and Eve, and then they eventually destroy the world for some reason. Then you start over again. So now, like a billion years later, you've got this new Adam and Eve. That's why the earth, maybe they were just here for 3,000 years, but it's happened like, you know, 100,000 times over history.
Yeah.
I mean, who knows? Because no, like we've talked about, nobody knows for sure. I mean,
Some people think they do, but
yeah, oh yeah, people definitely think that they know a lot of stuff
yeah.
There's
if
people
you
that make a living off of convincing others that they know.
absolutely, and those people make me sick.
Yeah. It's yeah, like the older I get and the more I learn, the more questions I have, not answers. It's like, oh, I don't know shit. I don't
Right.
know a damn thing.
That's right. Yeah, you thought you were enlightened and had all this
Uh-huh.
revelation and all this stuff, and then you find out, no, not really, not so much. Um, but that's good because that's also indicative that you're growing,
Hmm.
and that awareness, self-awareness. That hey, I haven't arrived. I don't know everything. In fact, I know a lot less than I thought I did.
Yeah.
I think that's how along with our failures, that's how we grow.
Each
Become
each each
a different
answer
person.
each answer contains exponentially more questions behind it.
Mm.
Yes, and that can drive you crazy if you if you think about it for too long.
Yeah. I
um,
yeah, I've done a lot of mind expanding drugs in my limited time, and I've definitely delved into the madness section quite a bit. I think I'm holding it together, but I definitely think
yeah,
about these things a lot, and it used to give me a lot of anxiety. That's like a big part of why I started doing this and like talking to different people about it
yeah,
because I
for
think about
sure.
it a lot.
Yeah, I
And
think that's from probably one of the biggest sources of anxiety, for everyone. Is just the unknown and not knowing what's after this life and what you're really supposed to be doing with the life you have.
yeah,
What are you supposed to be doing with your time here?
yeah, it's a beautiful thing. Like it's easy to take it for granted because not everything's perfect, but it's such a precious thing to exist at all. To
Yeah,
to be having good conversations with friends,
yeah. To
to be
exist
listening to good music.
when we to exist when we exist too. You
Yeah,
look at all the things that we've been exposed to, in our short time that we're here or going to be here. Even if you live to be 150, it's going to end. But what you're experiencing during that time that other people that came before us didn't get to, and you think, man, I'm grateful that I was in this time,
mm,
that I could have experienced these things, seen these things, heard this music, saw this art. We're able to be around some really beautiful people and experience life with them.
yeah.
It's cool.
I'm sure every generation's felt like they're at like a turning point in history, but the difference with our being alive now is it's like really true. Like it's like very, very true that
You can see things happening in real time,
yeah,
um, that makes you know that something's going to happen.
yeah,
It can't continue. It's not sustainable. Something's gonna give.
yeah. It's like technology, like we've had electricity for what, like 200 years? Not even,
Yeah, probably not even.
not even.
No,
And then
no, about a little. I want to say a little over 100 years. We've really had control of it. Now, there's a lot of theories about ancient peoples and the discovery of it, but our actual harnessing of it didn't really
Exactly.
happen until about 100 or so years ago.
And then like the internet is something like 50, 40, something like that. And then like
Uh,
accessible
yeah, I would
much
say
shorter
around
time.
40 years old. Yeah.
Yeah. And then like for widespread use, like even shorter time than that. It's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah, the internet, as it known as the internet, has only been around since the 90s.
oh shit. Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, like
When
30
I was
years.
when I was coming up in the 80s, you could call up a billboard, and that's somebody's computer that was left on and accessible, which in essence, the internet is a bunch of server units in warehouses that are on accessible. So that's, you know,
Right.
but yeah,
So like the government's had a relic of the internet for like 50, and then there's been like where we have it for like 30,
yeah,
basically. And that's like in that time, it's like we're way more connected than ever before. So like it's an exponential growth. Like it's not stair stepping, it's like boom. And
Right.
now
It's accelerated, and how much it's accelerated is kind of the unknown because we haven't seen, with AI coming into prominence now. I mean, things could change. Things are changing as we speak, uh,
yeah,
basically every second now, and it just continues to change. And um, of course, there could be a total collapse too, where there's
yep,
like nothing, um, where there's no electricity and there's no internet and there's nothing. I think that's a possibility too.
for sure.
Uh, and,
That's a
that's
real
that's extreme, but it definitely you can see that happening. Uh,
it's closer than a
dude,
lot of people think. Like that could happen for sure.
yeah, I know
everybody,
there's a lot of survivalists out there that are preparing for that.
Gearing up for it.
I think the best idea is to keep yourself from being so dependent, because
Hmm.
if you imagine the collapse, and
Like a solar flare knocks out like an EMP, like knocks out
yeah,
all
I mean, it would have to
electricity.
be on such a level, but really all it would really take as far as the net would be some satellites to go down,
Hmm.
some major satellites to go down, and then you have line of sight towers starting to drop out, but I mean, if something crazy happened with energy, and that's mainly what it would be, is an energy crisis where we didn't have the power to power all this stuff. The mass hysteria, it's kind of like the South Park episode when the internet stops. Everybody wakes up and they're like, my internet's not working. And they think for a second that, oh, it's a fluke. And then they go outside and everybody's just going crazy because their internet's not working.
Yep.
But if you remember, the 80s and the 90s, just that far back, there was no thought of that. There's,
Exactly.
a few of us that were considered to be cute computer geeks understood that you could even have a computer talk to another computer.
Yep.
Wild times, man.
No
Have,
doubt.
have you ever I used to ask people if they have any ghost stories, but what I really mean when I ask that is have you ever experienced something that you like can't explain
Uh,
besides life?
I've had some very spiritual type things that have happened that I
Hmm.
could explain. I know, like one time in my life where I was just at the point where I felt like I was at the bottom and there was nowhere else to go, nowhere to turn. And and if you grew up in any kind of church and you're taught that there's a God and all that, well, I cried out to God and was like, hey, if you're real, I need to know, because if you're not, screw it. I'm done. I'll check out, and because there's no point. And at that moment, I felt this peace come over me that I've never felt before or since. and it was definitely supernatural
Mm.
to where I felt something in the universe come and hold me. And I felt this deep, deep peace within myself that made me realize, and whether it was real or not, it was real to me definitely at that time, that I was going to be okay and that I needed to just appreciate life, that I'm alive, and really focus on all the good things that I had in my life, and let that be the guiding force for me going forward, and not think about all the things that bad things that could happen, or what I didn't have, or what wasn't there for me, and really focus on the things that I had and made me be grateful for my life, and not want to throw it away. And that was a real turning point for me.
Yeah, and it like you said, regardless of what's happening, it's very real in the context of like it changed your life. Like it's a wake up call. Regardless of what's happening, that's tangible.
Yeah,
That's
I mean, I've never had a feeling like that where it's you, and I'm having trouble describing it because
Mm.
it's indescribable.
It's with no words. Yeah,
In
But
the
you did,
Bible says, scripture, there's a peace that passes understanding. And I felt that. I don't know where it came from.
and you said that you actually verbally invoked this. You actually
Yes.
spoke it out. Yeah,
Yes.
that's that.
I brought it out.
I think that is a key thing
yeah,
because
Yeah.
saying it.
I didn't really think about
regardless,
it at the time,
right?
but it was it was putting it out there in the universe.
Because
Um,
I
and then
think that
whatever that invoked, or led to this experience I had. It may not have happened had I not done that.
Yeah,
well, it's speech is sound. It's an air pattern. It's a pattern that you create. You
Right.
know, um, and as we know that is what we recognize. That's one of the things that make us human. Is that we recognize that being done. So whether or not it was crying out to God or maybe crying into,
Hmm.
as I'd like to see it, because
Yeah.
the and then you said the effect was within you. It's you didn't cause it to start raining. You
Mm.
didn't part the seas, you know, but you got exactly what you were needing.
That's
Yeah.
right.
It was from within, so that's really interesting. I think that's a pretty wild story.
It, I find that fascinating as well, especially you use the word rituals and you used invocation, which that's not usually the terminology people use when they talk about prayer, but that's exactly what it is. You hit the nail on the head. Like Neef was saying, like the speaking, like that is what ritual is you're taking this concept which is in your mind or maybe in the ether, and you're bringing it into reality, either with a vocalization or a dance or a song or a drawing. You're making it real, and I think that, like Neve said, that's a big component to it, is bringing it into this dimension.
Yeah.
um
And that was sort of a turning point to me too in my music, especially songwriting, because it was really after that where I started getting kind of songs downloaded. I would be in the middle of the night and I would just have this, I would hear this song. It would be a whole song, and I would, I, I trained myself to get up and record it, even if it was just a little blip on my phone, or write it down on a piece of paper or something, because every time I didn't do that, I would never remember what it was, and I would hate myself for it. So
yep.
I've had so many nights where I had to get up in the middle of the night and go do like this real rough recording, just to remember this song idea, or the whole song. And but I never really pieced the two together. But maybe that was kind of what initiated or catapulted that into to existence.
Yeah, art is a weird thing. What you're saying actually reminds me, I'm gonna pull it up real quick, of Alex Gray painting. Can you guys
Yeah,
see this? Neef has seen this before, but
love Alex Gray.
me too. Yeah, he's a huge inspiration to me. But what you're kind of saying when you said downloaded, it reminds me of this painting because like here you have this artist, but like there's these lasers shooting into the back of his head. There's all these deities watching, like dark ones, and
Yeah,
kind of just people up here. Like there's Van Gogh, like the greats are up here.
yeah,
Frida, and like this I think is what art is. Like you said, you download it. You just got to be listening. Um,
that's
it's
it.
easy to take credit for these things, but at that, like we were talking about at the beginning, like I think the greatest artists are humble because they realize they've just been lucky or chosen um, for something greater.
Yeah. And like in the Bible where it says there's nothing new under the sun, um,
Yeah,
that's so true. I mean, the greatest thing we could ever come up with has been done before.
for sure.
I guarantee you.
Yeah,
So there truly is nothing new that we just kind of we're recycling, regurgitating. It's just flowing back through us in maybe a different way, but it's never going to be completely new. And I
yeah,
try to remember that too because that really keeps you humble as well. It's like
for sure, man.
don't ever think you're all that because or that you've arrived because that's just not it. It's, you know.
Yeah, yeah. It's I think there's basically one story that we keep telling over and over again in different ways. And
Yeah.
English is interesting, like because it's so malleable. Like it's part of what makes it so annoying. Like semantics, like words have several different definitions. It's like, what the fuck are you talking about? But also, it's what makes it so beautiful because like you can use it 1,000 ways, and it's um yeah. I'm not a musician, but I write poetry and I'm working on a novel right now. And like words are they're so interesting to me, but like as a writer, I think they're also like extremely annoying and trivial
Yeah.
sometimes. Like people people will argue over the definition of a word. Like it means this or it means this, and it's like, well, it means both because you're both using the word. Like you're both right.
Right.
It's kind of
The
like
meaning,
if
the
it,
meaning, the meaning comes from the meaning that you know,
Yeah,
I mean,
ascribe
and
to it,
nowadays
give to it.
you can't even quote the dictionary because somebody argue with you that the dictionary was wrong. Merriam-Webster is a fool.
Right. What
So
gave him
yeah,
the end all of being able to define all these words?
and then we have
Um,
such slang usage here. Even the simple things. I mean, think about Tom Petty. You're so bad. You
right.
know, it's and coming up, like if somebody was foreign, completely very foreign to English in the country, they would certain slang would confuse the crap out of them.
Oh,
But then as
that,
time goes on, they pick up that slang there, but it's past dated. So when they come here and they speak to you, you're like, wow, he's using like old, you
right.
know,
They
you
think
know,
they're like they got their finger on the pulse
yeah,
of what's
yeah.
happening. They're like 20
I
years
learn
behind.
authentic street American. This is radical, dude.
you you look so fat.
that one usually doesn't go over too well.
I meant PHAT fat.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so
You
funny.
have
Like
me all wrong.
it's so contextual and it's all about inflection. Like it's not even what you say, it's how you say it. Like it's crazy. It's so
that's
crazy.
that's what I love about the term fuck and motherfucker
Yeah,
because it can be across the range.
anything.
That's the coolest motherfucker I know. And that motherfucker, you know.
Exactly. It's all about the context.
Wild stuff. Did your parents listen to in the house or like in the car? Was it just gospel music or did they have some favorite artists that you were like that were played around you when you were a kid?
Not not really. My dad liked Jim Reeves, um, which is a kind of a crooner type um, music. They might have listened to like some Johnny Cash and Willie Nelson, things like that. But really, they didn't listen to a lot of secular music. And I really got my music influence from my older brother, who's like 4 years older than me, and I didn't even have a stereo growing up. So my brother had a stereo, and he had had some music, and he was listening to Nazareth and Bad Company and uh, Led Zeppelin, Dan Fogelberg, Barry Manilow. I mean, I was kind of all across the gamut there. Um, so that's kind of where I got my introduction to I guess popular rock music, and then once I got to high school, I was listening to what my friends were listening to, and it was AC/DC and Van Halen and uh, Boston and people like that, and then we went through the whole Beatlemania phase that most people.
I think everybody, especially, well, for the most part, anybody that is a musician of any type or even an instrument player goes at least through a minute of Beatles. Even if they end
You
up
have
hating
to.
them, you
You
can
have to.
you can
Yeah.
be a dude that diehard hates them, but you know why you hate them because you
Hmm.
went through a moment. It could have been 5 minutes, but you
Well,
had your Beatles
yeah. I mean,
moment.
they had such an impact on popular music. I mean, it's just undeniable.
Yeah.
And you can try to be cool and say you're not, you don't ever listen to them or hadn't listened to them or whatever, but you're probably lying.
My
I
my
fucking
eight
love the Beatles.
my 8 year old makes me put them on all the time now.
He's
Yeah,
got good taste.
I still go through. There's a lot of Beatles songs that I'll never not relate to, but I'll go through phases where I'll listen to them quite a bit, and then I'll go years without listening to them at all. But and John Lennon's solo stuff I like a lot
I've
too.
I've I've found that with certain artists, like especially some of my favorites, it's almost like a nutrition thing.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be sitting around going, man, why am I not? And I'm like, you know what? I hadn't listened to Melvins in a minute. It's been too
Right.
long since I've had Melvins. That's my problem. Y'all
That's
got to
it.
give me a minute. I got to go put Bullhead on and just, you know,
Yep, no doubt about it.
What you been listening to in like the last week or last few
Um,
days?
I have been listening to no artists in particular, but I've been listening to some '90s stuff, which is really kind of what I go back to. It seems. So I've been listening to Nirvana and Soundgarden and Alice in Chains and Meat Puppets, um, TLC, Rihanna. Um, people that wouldn't necessarily be a punk rock type thing to listen to, but I really appreciate all of that music kind of from that era.
Yeah, it was a good time for music for sure.
So that's kind of what I've been listening to just here recently. But I'm all over the place with music. I don't listen to most of the stuff that I listen to. If it's current, it's because somebody has told me about it. So a lot of the newer artists, I don't really know that much about, you know, just to be honest. So if you have anybody like you're really into, turn me on to them and
Oh,
I'll
for
check
sure.
them out. But I like so many, like Muddy Roots. There were probably half the artists there I'd never heard of,
Same. Oh, more
and
than that for me. Yeah.
yeah, and so it was great to just hear them without any expectation or preconceived idea of what they would be, other than maybe the music, the instruments they were playing. If they've got a stand up bass and a violin or a fiddle, I'm going to have a pretty good idea. But even then, you'd be like shocked, like Bridge City,
I
the
was just
center.
about to say that. They were maybe one of my
You look at them
favorites.
and you think they're going to maybe be this one thing, and then they're like totally something different.
That
And
blew my mind. I was
yeah,
actually just about to bring up Bridge City Centers. They were fucking incredible.
yeah. Amigo the Devil was kind of like that for me too. It was like I didn't know what to expect. Did you get to hear them?
I didn't see him this time, but I saw him open for or them open for oh wait, I take that back. I did catch a couple of his songs at Muddy Roots, but I saw him open for Gogo Bordello. Um Start wearing purple.
Uh,
Um at uh at Brooklyn Bowl in Nashville. And that was phenomenal. That was a great show. Migo Devil's really good. I noticed like there was a lot of great bands. Like I really dug Cro-Mags too. That New York hardcore band. They were dope.
yeah, it was
Um
cool to see them live because I'd known about them for so long and seen like documentaries of them, and also it was crazy to see them in real life.
they put
Like
on a fucking show.
they're brutally honest.
I think
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think I think that was the first
Come
band
on, sound guy.
I think that was the first band I asked Alex about when he had come back from that, because I saw on the flyer and I was like, oh shit, I know some of the old punk bands that are playing, and I saw Cro-Mags are playing. And I remember asking him, I was like, dude, did you watch the Cro-Mags? Because I just had to get his reaction.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Kip was right. They're brutally honest and they were brutal. And
yeah,
That's
man, like
good old school New York hardcore right there.
no
That's
doubt. I mean, they are
traditional
they
hardcore right there.
represented what it was all about, no doubt.
yeah. Suicidal Tendencies was great, but something else I noticed is a lot of the best stuff I saw at Muddy Roots was actually stuff from Nashville and Murfreesboro. Like we have so many talented people here.
A ton of it was, and especially Nashville. I didn't realize how many Nashville acts were there. Like a lot of the acts I didn't know were from Nashville until I listened to them. Like Black Venus was,
Dude, they're so good.
they blew me
They're so
away.
fucking good.
And then I found out they were from Nashville. Of course, nobody's from Nashville. They all came here
Yeah.
from somewhere else. It's kind of like L.A. But they're made their home Nashville, and that's where they've been making their mark. And Volk, I really loved them too. It was like a female drummer and a male guitar player, and they had like a country White Stripes kind of vibe.
I missed that. What did you say they were called?
Volk, Volk.
Oh, I missed that. I don't know them.
Yeah, and they're
I'll have to look that up.
yeah, I highly recommend them. They're actually going to be playing at Third and Lindsley, opening up for Liam St. Clair. It's like a blues person, and Joshua Quimby, who was at also at Muddy Roots, is going to be there. So November 12th at Third and Lindsley. I'm going to try to make it because I definitely want to see them again. I love them.
Neef, was Joshua Quimby the guy that went on before you guys at Burkhouse?
I don't recall.
He's like
was.
he plays kind of a guitar, one of those I don't know what it's called. It's got the little silver metal thing under the
It's a resonator on it.
yeah,
Talking about like a dobro. Yeah. Was he playing slide?
He had a stand-up bass player and a fiddle player. And they played at the Wood Stage. So he was really good too, and that's where Volk was as well. That's where I saw them. So,
Neef, I'm pretty sure it was.
yeah, they were like
I was
probably like 12 or 15 acts minimum from Nashville. And I know there was 7 bands from Murfreesboro, which makes a little bit of sense too because of where Muddy Roots kind of has their headquarters in Murfreesboro, more or less. And they run the Borough Graveyard Gallery, and so they know a lot of the local bands, and so it's good and they're great bands. So it's not like they're throwing them a bone. They're worthy to be there, but it's so neat to see so many bands from the Borough and Nashville scene for sure. Because people that come to that music festival, they're from all over the world.
Yeah.
The people that come to attend it, so they don't know about a lot of these bands. Certainly the Murfreesboro bands, they've probably never heard of.
Yeah.
So getting that exposure for them to these people that you now can take it back to wherever they're from and like tell other people about it. I mean, you can't put a price on that. That's crazy.
It's definitely a great festival to get exposure. Like if you can play there, like you could pop off real quick.
It's actually grown quite a bit because I went to the very first one they did, and it was almost entirely psychobilly and rockabilly and country, and but it was still, it had the hard, the underground punk vibe to it, but there wasn't straight punk bands playing, and but of course it wasn't quite as long as they're doing it now, and obviously it wasn't as popular, and that was the only one I ever went to because I pretty much gave up going to festivals unless I'm playing them.
Yeah.
And it's it was really interesting watching it turn into what it turned into, and I'm glad that they kept a lot of the rockabilly and that going on there.
Yeah.
Not that I don't, thinking a bunch of punk coming there is not a good thing because it's virtually the same thing, psychobilly, punk, that style of when you're talking about a music style, it's all in the same wheelhouse, if you will.
It's rooted in the same
right.
thing for
it's
sure.
all rooted in the same mud. So
That's right.
but
I see what you did there.
Yeah.
So I can confirm that Joshua Quimby was who went on right before you in Sydney at Burke House last Friday. Neef just played a show with that guy.
Oh, that is cool.
Yeah. I didn't know he was at Muddy Roots. That's crazy. Small world, man.
Yeah, I'd never heard of him before either. And they actually camped out right behind where we were, which is
no shit.
So they were back there, having a good time. That was cool. But yeah, when did Muddy Roots? When was the first year for Muddy Roots? Because this was my first. I'd heard about it, known about it for a few years, but I'd never been until this year.
Me either.
So I know it's been around a while.
I want to say either in 10, 11, or 12 around then, because
Okay.
I played. I want to say in 13. Muddy Roots, because it started as just that festival, and obviously they had to be a company to put it together, and they started doing other events to be an event company, which is what helped fund them and help them grow.
Right.
But I played in a blues band back then, and we got a gig playing it was a Muddy Roots weekender, like a weekender canoe thing. So it was, I want to say it was a 1 or 2 day little camping thing at actually at the same place I play that Possum Stock was at. Yeah, that's how I knew where to get to it. And so yeah, it was, so it had to be before that because it was at least a year or two before after I went to the first one that I played that,
Okay.
But of course, it's hazy memory here. I'm trying to think, thinking along the timeline of okay, this is before my son was born. This was,
right. You gotta tie it into some life event.
Yeah, because just
remember
concert that I went to. God.
According to Wikipedia, Muddy Roots started in 2010.
There you go. So it's been around 12 or 13 years, and it looks like it's really it has staying power for sure. I think it's
yeah popular. I think it's because, well, I mean, they were real smart about what they did when they came here. They set it up, and then they realized, it's an event company thing, and so that's not the only thing that company, as you were saying, I didn't actually realize they own it. Well, maybe I was told that, but but I didn't realize they ran Graveyard Gallery. So
yeah. Milt, I guess Dave is the one who kind of owns that building in that area.
Right.
And then Milt's got his tattoo parlor is in the front of it.
Right.
And so Milt's kind of the one that does most of the booking and all for it. But yeah, it's a cool little place. I'm so glad that because it actually debuted at last year's Burro Fondo. This is when they had their very first show there.
Right.
So it's only been around.
Yeah.
For a year.
Yeah. It was kind of glad. It was kind of good to see because when, I mean, even back in the early 2000s, the Burrow actually had a couple of more clubs out there for people to play at, and then it just went, down. It ended up being the Burrow was about the only thing anybody could play at out there anymore.
Right. Yeah.
So I was glad to see legitimate places, houses. It's cool, but
right.
You run into what you run into with a house show.
So, yeah, and Crossroads kind of got shut down for a few months because of some issues, and so that was really the only place. They had Meteor Majeure that was going a little bit, and then it shut down. So Burrow has been the only constant for the past year. Yeah. So thank goodness it was there. We'd be hurting to find places to play.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's so cool because Milt, I got to know him a little bit, and he asked me if I was going to Muddy Roots, and I said, yeah, I haven't got my tickets yet. He goes, don't worry about it. I'm gonna put you on the guest list, and you can just, you don't have to pay. You can just come. And I was like, are you serious, man? I was like, that's one of the nicest things anybody's ever done.
Yeah, nice.
Hell yeah.
And so that alone's made me a fan for life. But then I got to go experience it and just saw what it was all about, and it was truly one of the best weekends of my life. It's just everything that I like, except for the sleeping arrangements. Sleeping on an air mattress in a tent's not fun. Maybe next year I can do something about that. But really aside from that, and I wouldn't want to do it for 4 or 5 years. I remembered to spray sunscreen on me constantly, so I didn't get any sunburn. Thankfully,
I was wearing jeans with a hole in them, so I've got one spot on my knee that's burnt, and there's no pigmentation on the rest of my leg. It's just translucent.
Gotta love it.
Yeah. I slept in my car when I went the first year. I was like, yeah, I'm not putting a tent out here with all of this.
How many nights did you do that?
Huh?
How many nights?
I want to say I was only there. Well, I got there late the first night. And yeah. And I don't know if I stayed. No, I don't think I stayed till Sunday. I think I had to work. But yeah, I mean, I was, wasn't sleeping in the car ain't a big deal to me.
Yeah, no, it can, especially if you're not totally scrunched up and it's not 100 degrees outside, but you can make anything work for a night or two.
Yeah, I'm not tall, so I'm not a tall guy.
I got you. Yeah, it would be tougher for me. I'm 6'4".
You're a tall dude, yeah.
Yeah, I definitely came out good on the tall thing. If that's what people want to be, I got that. But it's not really done anything, for me. I don't think. I wasn't tall enough to be a professional basketball player or good enough athlete to parlay it into something. It just makes it hard to find pants that fit.
That is give and take to everything.
Yeah, and things are not built for tall people. It's they're built for average size. Probably 5'8" to 5'11", kind of in that. That's what most things are geared towards. So, but I'm definitely not complaining. I realize that it's.
Did you get constantly commanded by short people to grab that up there?
Well, my grandmother was 4'11", so anytime.
So yeah, it's ingrained in you. It's just a complete stranger could be like, "Hey man, grab that."
At grocery stores and stuff. Yeah, all the time. Yeah, which I don't mind doing. I think that's cool. It's I can actually make use of this. But yeah, I mean, I guess I'd rather be tall than short if I had the choice. But yeah, um, it's sometimes it's not all it's cracked up to be.
Well, thank you, Kip. Thank you so much for coming, man. This has been awesome talking to you. Awesome
Thank
moshing
you.
with you at Muddy Roots. I'm sure we'll do it many times in the future.
I sure hope so.
Alice, check out Kip Gloss. Link below. Catch them at Hangover Fest, October 1st at Crossroads, right?
That's right.
Yeah, they're awesome. Kip's a great guy. And much love to you, brother.
You too, Alex. Appreciate you guys. Keep doing what you're doing.
And we'll see y'all next week.